Lesson 2.8, Multiply using mental math. Okay, today we're going to be using a number of strategies to solve multiplication problems. And the first strategy we're going to use is the commutative property. And I left a little hint there for you. Remember, if we change the order of the factors when we're multiplying, it doesn't matter. We'll still get the same answer. For example, 2 times 3 equals 6, and 3 times 2 equals 6. That's the commutative property. So let's look at this word problem. There are 4 sections of seats in the Playhouse Theater. Each section has 7 groups of seats. Each group has 25 seats. How many seats, whoops, I forgot to hit the button. How many seats are there in the theater? All right. Well, we know there are 4 sections times 7 groups, and each group has 25 seats. So I've got 4 times 7 times 25. Well, if I just did this in this order, I'd have 4 times 7 equals 28, and 28 times 25, and boy, that sounds kind of hard. But I could go ahead and change the order with the commutative property, and I could solve this a lot easier. So I'm going to go ahead and move my 4 and my 25 together. So you can see they've done it right here. 4 times 25 times 7. Well, I know 4 times 25 because I can think about money, and 25 cents 4 times would be 100. So 4 times 25 equals 100. And then I still have to multiply times 7. So now I have 100 times 7. Again, easy. 1 times 7 is 7. Add my 2 zeros since I'm in the hundreds. There are 700 seats in the theater. Okay, another strategy I can use is the associative property. Remember, this is where you keep them in the same order, but you change the groupings by moving the parentheses. So our original problem here has in parentheses 6 times 10 times 10. So I could do it that way, but I could also put the grouping together into something that's really easy. I would have 6 times 10 times 10, and I know 10 times 10 is 100. And 6 times 100 is another easy problem that I can do in my head. Sometimes you need to use both, the commutative and the associative property. For instance, look at the problem 4 times 9 in parentheses times 250. Whew, that looks like a tough one. But let's go ahead and use our properties. So I'm going to move the 4 times 9 times 250 and put it in a different order. I'm going to have 250 times 4 times 9, and then I'm going to regroup 250 times 4. I still have the same 3 numbers. I'm still multiplying all 3. I've just changed their order and their grouping. So again, let's think about our basic facts. 25 times 4. We still know that one is 100. And I still have this because it's not 25 times 4, it's 250 times 4. So it's 1,000 times 9. Oh, here we go again. I could do that in my head. 9 times 1, add my 3 zeros. Ta-da! Here's another strategy. We can use friendly numbers. By friendly numbers, I just mean that they're easier to work with. If we had to multiply 24 times 250, we could think of that 24 as 6 times 4. And then we could go ahead and remember 4 times 250, remember 4 times 25 is 100, my other 0. And again, 6 times 1,000, another easy one to work on. That wasn't hard. Oh, this is one of my favorite strategies. It's called halving and doubling. If I had to multiply 16 times 50, I could use the halving and doubling strategy. Now you got to remember, whatever you decide to have needs to be an even number. Otherwise, it's not going to be a very good strategy for you. So I'm going to go ahead and halve the 16. It really doesn't matter which one, but this one makes it easy. So half of 16 is 8. And if I halved this, then I have to double this one because it's called halving and doubling. And a double 50 is 100. Now I have the problem 8 times 100, and that equals 800. I love this strategy. Sometimes we need to use addition to make a problem a little easier to understand. If I have to multiply 4 times 625, I might think about 625 as 600 plus 25. and then I would multiply 4 times 600 plus 25. And remember my distributive property, 4 times 600. Here's my basic fact. 2 zeros to add. And 4 times 25, I know that in my head, is 100. So now I have to add 2,400 plus 100, 2,500. That's much easier to do. Along those same lines, sometimes you might use subtraction. If I were multiplying 5 times 398, I know that 398 is just 2 away from 400. So I might think of this as 5 times, and then instead of 398, I'll think of that as 400 minus 2. And then I'm going to go back to my distributive property where I take 5 times this number. Here's my operation. I have to keep it, minus. Now back to the 5 times the other number, 2. So now I have 5 times 400 is 2,000, minus, see, we've got to save that, 5 times 2 is 10. So 2,000 minus 10 is 1,990. Okay, let's practice. Let's choose a strategy, and then we'll share why we chose that strategy. When I look at the number 14 times 50, I'm thinking of a strategy. What I'd like you to do is go ahead and pause your video, look back at the strategies we've tried so far, and decide which one you want to use, and then come back and we'll see if we agree on the same one, or you may have done it a little differently from me. The strategy that came to my mind was my favorite old halving and doubling. So, because when I see 50, I start thinking, oh, if I doubled that, that would be 100. And since 14 is a nice even number, half of 14 is 7. So I thought of using the halving, or as I sometimes call it, half and double. So 7 times 100 is 700. So when I halved it, and then doubled it, and then multiplied it, I've solved it. Okay, let's do that again. Choose a strategy, explain why you chose it, and then we'll solve it. So go ahead and pause the video, and then come back. When I see this one, I immediately think back to using the distributive property in the expanded form. So what I thought I would do is I would go ahead and make this 8 times, and then I'm going to break 214 into 200 plus 10 plus 4. And now, using the distributive property, I will have 8 times 200 plus 8 times 10 plus 8 times 4. So here we go, 16, 2 zeros, plus 80 plus 32. And then I'll go ahead and write those down. Now you may have chosen a different way, but I hope we came up with the same solution. Check this one out. Pause the video, choose a strategy, and come back. As I look at this, I immediately think that 298 is close to 300, so I'm going to be thinking of the subtraction. Okay, 6 times 300 minus 2. So now I'm going to go ahead and make this 6 times 300. Now remember, I have to keep this operation, minus 6 times 2. So now we have 1800 minus 12. Okay, if you didn't want to do it in your head, you can just follow along with me. There you go. That's not such a hard problem now. All right, let's try one more together. Choose your strategy, pause the video, come back, and we'll talk it over. Okay, I immediately thought about regrouping this and moving the order. So that is your commutative and your associative properties. So I would prefer to multiply, 2 times 50, so I'm going to put those in order. And I still have to multiply it by 9. And then I'm going to group it like this. So I know 2 times 5 is 10, add my 0, and then times 9. So 100 times 9 is 900. Okay, strategy expert. Now that you have so many strategies available to use, I want you to go on and do the problems on page 77 and 78. Think about the strategies that you want to use and solve them. Have fun.